Week 3 of the NFL is in the books, and today I'm going to go over all the biggest winners and losers for the week going into Week 4. I'm your host of Pro Ball Pod, Jack Gretler, and let's get right into it. Our first big winner is kind of obvious to me. It's that Cleveland Browns defense. Oh my goodness. They looked like a dominant force against the Green Bay Packers, who have looked like the best team in football through 2 weeks up to that point. Absolute dominant day. Mason Graham specifically dominating the trenches. Great work on the defensive line and holding the Packers to 10 points. It didn't matter that their offense was not doing much outside of Junkins because at the end of the day, they single-handedly won the game for the Browns, and shout out to them. They look awesome. They look like a top 3 unit this year, and even though Cleveland is going to be awful because of their offense, their defense showed us that they're going to keep them in games regardless, and they're going to be a headache for any team that has to go against them. Our next big winner has to be the Indianapolis Colts offense. Once again, another dominant performance. They finally had to punt this game, but still an absolute dominant performance. Daniel Jones looks like Josh Allen Jr. out there. He looks like he's shaking off tackles, he's dominating, and Jonathan Taylor looks like the best running back in football. He is back to 2022 form, and he looks like he is going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. Overall, Colts coming out hot right out of the gate with a 3-0 start, but next week is going to be fun. It's going to be a big test for them as they're taking on the Rams, a team with an elite defensive line. And while they definitely got past the Broncos' elite defense with relative ease, I'm curious to see how they match up against the Rams, who have another elite defensive force. And our final big winner for the week has to go to the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of people had doubts going into this week. Carson Wentz is starting? What's that going to look like? But dude put on an absolute clinic. The Bengals defense of old has finally arrived as one of the worst defenses in the league as the Vikings casually dropped 40 plus on them. Jordan Mason looks awesome. That looks like a steal of a trade for the Vikings. Carson Wentz was running this offense with ease, and overall, Brian Flores' defense was also manhandling the Bengals offense for most of the game. So shout out to the Minnesota Vikings, a big statement win, especially after laying such an egg against Atlanta on Sunday Night Football. But one thing to consider, what does this mean for J.J. McCarthy? Why is it that every Minnesota quarterback thrived under Kevin O'Connell except for him? So it's definitely something to consider moving forward and maybe a thought of concern. So really worried about J.J. McCarthy. Carson Wentz came in here and dominated, but let's also take it with a grain of salt. That was the easiest defense they played to the point with the Bengals defense being one of the worst, if not the worst, on paper already. But overall, big winners for the Vikings regardless. They'll take a big blowout win against the Bengals. And now that we've gone through the winners, let's go through the losers. First up, the Houston Texans offense. Am I saying it's time to hit the panic button? Maybe. My hand is definitely hovering over it at this point. The Texans offense does not look the same. CJ looks like he's actually gotten worse each year. He looked extraordinary his first year coming in. Then he sort of regressed last year, but is still very good and won a playoff game. And now he looks very bad. Not to say that's all his fault. His receivers haven't really stepped up outside of Nico, and he has probably one of the worst offensive lines in the league. That's definitely something to consider. We knew this offensive line was going to have its ups and downs, but to this degree of awful where the team is sitting at 0-3 and having to crawl out of this hole, it makes me nervous for the future. The OC change was supposed to be a big difference, but it hasn't really. We haven't seen that up to this point. They look like they've been struggling. They missed Joe Mixon, most definitely. But I think if the O-line can't improve and fast, this Texans season could end up free-falling, and they could end up wasting a great year of C.J. Stroud if they don't improve. We have a lot to talk about and a lot of questions need to be answered around this Texans offense moving forward. Our next big loser, Michael Penix Jr. Oh, it was a rough one. 30-0 shutout against the Panthers. Something to consider about this Panthers defense if they've looked like one of the worst in the league until they ran into the Atlanta Falcons. And the reality is, Michael Penix is most definitely underperforming up to this point. I liked him last year. He had flashes, but come on, considering this offense and the Falcons offense, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, solid offensive line. I understand they're missing their starting right tackle, but still, I just expect more. You should be able to run this offense more fluid. This offense should be good every week. This is not an offense that should be getting shut out by bottom-tier defenses if we're being real. I'm definitely worried moving forward. Kirk Cousins is licking his chops on the bench, just waiting for that opportunity to come back in and see if he can run this Falcons offense. So we'll see how he looks moving forward. If Penix is able to keep this job, obviously, got to give him the benefit of the doubt, but let's be real. He hasn't won a game in which the opposing team's offense scored 7 points. So that's definitely something to look at moving forward. Penix is going to have to turn the ship around and fast. And last but not least, our biggest loser of the week has to be Cowboys defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus. Not just because of the poor performance of the Cowboys defense, allowing the Bears to absolutely cook them, but because it was his old quarterback and his old team. Caleb Williams went absolutely ballistic after struggling throughout the first 2 weeks of the season, and Ben Johnson was honestly toying with this man. He had these flea flickers and all sorts of shenanigans going on to just sort of rub it in a little bit. Matt Eberflus has had a promising start to his career as a defensive coordinator for Dallas, but this was not a game to remember for him as they struggled against his former team, and Caleb Williams finally arrived on the scene and looked like that promising young quarterback we thought he would be. Now it's time to update our power rankings for the heroes and zeros. For this week, we're only going to do zeros because heroes is Monday Night Football, which is coming up in a bit. It's too important of a game that's going to shift the rankings. So if you want to see the heroes, click the link in the description to my TikTok and Instagram, and I will put my final top 5 there when all the games have been played properly. But for the bottom 5, I definitely think it's solidified. Coming in at number 5, I'd like to congratulate the Cleveland Browns on getting their first win of the season. They definitely deserve to be moved up from dead last. Their offense doesn't do much, but their defense is a problem and continues to be. They definitely deserve to be knocking on the door of leaving the bottom 5 altogether, depending on how Jets and Dolphins goes next week, and a couple other factors that are going to go into their ability to keep moving up. But while they looked rough on offense, defense did more than enough, and having a statement win like that, they definitely deserve to move up a lot. And I think number 5 on this list is a big win for them. As for number 4, give me the New York Jets. I liked what I saw, honestly. It was a rough first half. Baker Mayfield went off in that second quarter, but they really dug in. They were able to lead a comeback a little bit. Shout out to Will McDonald. Awesome blocked field goal. So I like what I saw, but still an 0-3 team. I think, of course, they're going to be a team that gets a little better in the second half of the season just because their schedule. Look, they lost to a playoff team last year in the Steelers, Super Bowl contender Bills, and playoff team last year with the Bucks. So it's not like it's been an easy road. They've been in two of the last 3 of their games, so we'll see if they're able to move up from here. At number 3, give me the New York Giants. They had a rough game. Cam Scatterboo looked awesome, but other than that, Russ and Malik Neighbors just not doing enough. Russ specifically can't get Malik Neighbors involved. Not good. Defense played okay. Chiefs have been struggling all year, though, and honestly, they didn't do a lot to move me this week. And for number 2, the worst team in the league, the New Orleans Saints, definitely fell back down to earth. I was talking about last week how they were the gritty team. They were the team that wasn't going to just go away, but last week they did. They got absolutely crushed by the Seahawks. There was no fight left, so definitely have to give them move down a couple spots for it, but shout out to them for hanging in there the first 2 weeks. And number 1, we have a new number 1. It's the Tennessee Titans. I get it. I do think they're going to be better, but they have not really been in any of their games up to this point, and it just hasn't moved me. It's been rough, I won't lie. Rams have been awesome on the defensive front. They've been dominated by a couple teams, though. Broncos start out the year, too. They were in that one a little bit, but didn't really move me at all. Broncos offense looked awful. And, of course, the latest loss to Indiana Jones and the Colts. So, yeah, I think they're going to get better, but right now they definitely have that worst spot. But it's interesting. The Browns winning definitely shook up the rankings, and it looks like the Saints could very well be on track. But based on the last 3 weeks, I think the Saints have played ever so slightly more competitive football than Tennessee Titans, and they will be my worst team in the league as for week 3. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, if you want to see the hero sections of this video, check out the TikTok. It'll be out Tuesday once the Lions and Ravens game has resolved itself. And yeah, we will be back here next week, same time, same place. See you guys later. Pro Ball Pod out.